I'm a physicist, and we live and die by data. We follow the data wherever it leads, even into uncomfortable areas. Data is king, and when it comes to data, repeated sightings are the gold standard. After nearly 5 decades in space, everyone thought Voyager 1 would fade out. Instead, it sent a whisper, something totally unexpected. It wasn't noise, it was a clear pattern that defied physics as we understand it. Now, AI has decoded some of it, and what it found is a game changer: prime numbers, neutrino patterns, intelligence. Michio Kaku calls it a message we weren't supposed to get. Was Voyager 1 a messenger, or just a witness? And if this signal wasn't for us, what happens now that we know about it? The truth might be scarier than any story. This is Voyager's last whisper. Voyager 1 wasn't built to last this long. Launched in 1977, it's traveled over 15 billion miles from Earth, with old instruments and carrying humanity's hope to touch the stars. After almost 5 decades, its systems were expected to die. Engineers were already talking about it in the past tense, like a ghost ship floating in space. But then something weird happened. Instead of fading away, Voyager sent a signal. Not just random noise, but a clear, structured pattern. The signal stood out, it was consistent, unlike anything they'd seen in years. It wasn't radiation or background noise, it looked like it was on purpose. Scientists were shocked. Voyager's transmitter barely had enough juice to stay in touch. The signal wasn't a regular update, it was weird. Some called it a glitch, but others weren't so sure. One JPL engineer said it was like hearing a clear voice in an empty room. Then it got even stranger. Hidden in the data was a pattern that didn't match anything on board or any Earth-based commands. It wasn't anything Voyager was programmed to do. It looked like quantum interference, which should be impossible for a 1970s spacecraft to detect. This wasn't just a dying probe sending garbage, it was a signal with shape, rhythm, and maybe meaning. And then came the crazy part, what Voyager had apparently detected. Let's look closer at that. The impossible detection. Voyager 1 can't detect neutrinos, those ghost particles that pass through everything. To detect them, we use massive underground tanks or sensors buried in ice. Voyager doesn't have any of that. Yet, the data it sent matched a known neutrino oscillation signature. The signal looked like the theoretical models of how neutrinos change types, something never seen this clearly, especially not by a spacecraft that wasn't designed for it. Scientists checked everything. Was it space noise, a data error, or a false reading? Nope, the math was too clean, too perfect. If this was real, it meant one of two things: either Voyager 1 had somehow picked up neutrino behavior from deep space, or its systems had been changed to make it look that way. Either way, it raised questions that break the rules of physics. People have talked about using neutrinos for deep space messages, but no one's ever done it. If neutrinos were used in this signal, someone had found a way to bend science. Michio Kaku later called it a message written into the fabric of reality itself. The signal was real, the data solid, and with no answers from the hardware or space environment, scientists turned to artificial intelligence. What the AI found made the mystery much bigger. The neutrino code. Once the signal was for real, scientists gave it to advanced AI systems trained to find weird patterns in huge amounts of data. These models had sorted through space noise, fake alien signals, and decades of deep space data. When they got Voyager's signal, they had no doubts. They saw order. The pattern wasn't random, it repeated, symmetrical, and mathematically exact. Even crazier, it had a prime number sequence, a classic marker that SETI uses to find intelligent life. Nature doesn't usually do prime numbers, intelligent beings do. Researchers checked for errors, the pattern was buried deep in the signal. The AI also saw oscillation intervals that matched theoretical predictions, ones never seen in cosmic data before. It wasn't just a neutrino pattern, it was perfect. One physicist described it as something intelligent using the universe itself as a carrier wave. Suddenly, the question changed from what Voyager was hearing to who sent it. At this point, The mystery was too big for any single lab, and Michio Kaku, a famous physicist, stepped in with a warning that made the science world shake. Enter the AI. When Voyager 1, our farthest traveling spacecraft, sent that strange signal, something felt off. The frequency wasn't normal, and the pattern wasn't like background radiation. It was alien, not in a sci-fi way, but in a way scientists understand. It didn't fit. Faced with something so out there, scientists at NASA and CERN did something they'd never done before. They used AI. These weren't simple programs, they were systems trained to find anomalies and hidden signals. The results came fast. The AI didn't just say the data was interesting, it emphasized it. Deep in the signal was a sequence of prime numbers, numbers only divisible by 1 and themselves, like 2, 3, 5, and 7. SETI uses these to identify intelligent signals because prime numbers don't happen naturally in space noise. They are intentional. But that wasn't all. The AI also found a symmetry in the waveform, a mirrored pattern. Even better, this pattern matched models of neutrino oscillation, something scientists have predicted but never seen in space. To be clear, neutrinos barely interact with matter. They fly through planets like ghosts. Even Earth's best detectors struggle to catch them. Voyager wasn't even designed to detect neutrinos, yet it was picking up a signal that mirrored their behavior, cleanly and consistently. One CERN physicist said, this wasn't static, it was patterned, it was purposeful. The best part is that multiple systems confirmed the signal. No errors, every check passed. No one could call it a bug. One NASA analyst said it best, the AI didn't just find a signal, it found intent. So what kind of intent, and from where? What followed was a frenzy. People who work with probabilities and equations were suddenly whispering about intelligence, something out there that seemed to be waiting to be heard. As the signal went around behind closed doors, one of the most respected voices in physics stepped forward, Michio Kaku. His reaction wasn't excitement, it was a warning, and what he said changed everything. Michio Kaku responds. When asked about the signal, Michio Kaku didn't hold back. He called it a crack in reality. In interviews, Kaku laid out 3 unsettling possibilities. First, the signal might be proof of new physics, something beyond what we know. Second, and more alarming, the signal might have come from an intelligent source. Third, Kaku said something might have changed Voyager to send this signal, that would imply interaction. One scientist stated, this could be our first real encounter with something beyond science.